Hello, hello, ladies and gents and NBs. Welcome back to the Cat Golf Show. My name is Al, and we are continuing the series that I started 2 videos ago, I believe now, ranking Beach Boys albums. Now, if you somehow stumbled across this video and haven't seen the last one, I recommend you go and watch that one, but I'm not really uploading these in the proper order, as the first one that I started was me talking about the middle section of the discography of the Beach Boys, which I was planning on recording them in order, in chronological order, but ended up not, just because, whatever reason. So, yeah, this is the second video on this, but technically it should have been the first, because this is their early discography. And also, if you didn't hear, for some reason, you didn't watch the last video, and you also didn't know, Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys passed away recently, and that is why I decided to cover and rank their albums, the Beach Boys albums, because I grew up listening to the Beach Boys. They were a pivotal part of me sort of coming into my musical sense. Yeah, and I'm familiar with a lot of their work. Like I said in the previous video, I didn't listen to a lot of their albums in their entirety, but I was familiar with like singles and some of their more popular songs, of course, as who was not. But yeah, I wanted to really deep dive into their stuff. Like I said in the first video, my warning: this is a very subjective list. This is a very subjective ranking. I don't know anything about musical composition, what it takes to make an album, musical theory, none of that. I have no background in music studies whatsoever. This is purely from an enjoyment standpoint. How much did I like the album, the songs on it, how original are they, how catchy are they, etc., etc. As with the previous, if I can get this up here, as with the previous video, I have my little notepad here with my notes on it of the albums and their rankings and some highlighted songs and such. Sorry if that made a lot of noise. There's like a latch that attaches the journal and closes it. That may be rattling and making a lot of noise, and I apologize for that. But yes, as I said previously, this is quite difficult to do with one hand, so pardon me. Well, I have my pen here to bookmark where I am, and I don't lose my place. All right, enough blathering. I suppose we shall get into the actual list here. Sorry, I'm just going to open up Spotify here so I can have a little reference point in case I forget something that I want to say here. I am tired as well, so I apologize if I yawn or stutter frequently throughout this video. Bear with me. Okay. So as I stated in the previous video, their early albums, there are a lot of them. They're pretty extensive in their earlier years, from the early 1960s until about 1969. 14 in total. And just for number purposes here, the middle section, there are 8 albums. And I believe in the late section, there are maybe 5. So they were most prolific in their early years. They were putting out like at least 2 albums a year sometimes in their early years. And so they were just like pumping out content left and right. But a lot of their early stuff was very doo-wop. Obviously, as their name implies, they were the Beach Boys. They sang about surfing and cars and girls a lot in their early years. So you're going to notice a theme. I don't want to speed run the early albums, just because I want to give them their fair due process or whatever. But at the same time, I want a disclaimer at the top here. I did not enjoy most of their early albums. So they first started releasing music in 1962. Like from 1962, let me see here, up until probably 1965-ish, they didn't, like, their sound didn't really change, in my opinion. But I will get into all that. Okay, so the first album we've got, Surfin' Safari, 1962. I ranked this album a 3 out of 10. My only note is very repetitive, and that is true. It is very doo-wop sounding. I mean, there are some highlights. Surfin' Safari, it's an iconic song for a reason. I think it's a great song. Summertime Blues, I believe, is a ballad, one of Brian's ballads, earlier ballads. And then Cuckoo Clock, which is sort of a funny, I don't want to say a gag song, but it's cheesy, it's cheeky. I thought it was interesting at the very least. 3 out of 10, very repetitive. All the songs are, I hate to say bog standard Beach Boys, but this defined their sound essentially. Like the albums following this one did not deviate very much from this sound that they established in Surfin' Safari. Okay, moving on to the next one. Surfin' USA, 1963. 4 out of 10 from me. We got some better songs. It's relatively inoffensive. There were quite a few instrumentals, so I don't know the history, and I should also mention, I don't know the history of these albums. So, like, I know the history of some of them. Some of the upcoming albums I do know some about, like, the process that went into making them. But to me, it sounds almost like this could have been a soundtrack to a movie, possibly, just based on the amount of instrumentals there were. Like, I want to say there's 4 or 5 instrumentals, which is interesting. But yeah, it's definitely like the songs of summer kind of sound to it. Again, very, I don't want to say, I guess it was kind of doo-woppy, yeah. Sort of basic, I guess. They're all very samey sounding. It's like they weren't really experimenting with their sound at this point. They broke onto the scene with their previous album, and they just were like, we have a formula, this works, let's keep making music, we sing about surfing in cars, so let's keep doing that. So highlighted tracks on this one are Surfin' USA, iconic song again. Farmer's Daughter, it's sort of a funny song, like, I don't know, it's funny, it's a little bit cheeky. Stoked, which is an instrumental song that I found quite good. Lonely Sea, which is a ballad, sort of a sad ballad. Shut You Down, another good song. I believe Mike sings that one, Mike Love. And then Lena, which is a good song. I did enjoy that song. Overall, not too much different here. I did enjoy this album slightly more than I enjoyed Surfin' Safari, so thus the 4 out of 10 instead of 3 out of 10. All right, moving on. We've got Surfer Girl, 1963, another 1963 release from the Beach Boys. I gave this one a 5 out of 10. As you can see, we're getting a little bit better here. More variety in the sound in this one. There were some glimpses of what's to come with the catchy song that they released in this album, and also some new sounds. So we've got Surfer Girl, of course, as a highlight track. Great song. I really enjoyed that song, and I've always been a fan of that song. The Surfer Moon, which is another ballad. You can definitely tell that they were... The joke was Mike had fast songs and Brian sang the slow ballad songs, and I think I'm more of a fan of the ballads. They usually tend to be more reflective, a little more introspective, and they tend to be a little more cohesive than the other songs. Like the fast songs usually are just about cars. At least with Brian's ballads, they're more about maybe forlorn. They're more about mourning a relationship or longing for a girl or whatever, which I find more interesting than just singing about a car. Like, and that's the next song, Little Deuce Coupe, of course, which is about a car, but it's catchy. It's iconic for a reason, like I said. In My Room, famous song. Really, really love that song. That's like a prime example of Brian's introspective writing there. And then Your Summer Dream, which is another ballad. So you can tell they're leaning into the balladry, which became popular. Moving on to the next album, Little Deuce Coupe, 1963, another 1963 release. 2 out of 10. Very, very boring. It was a rehash. There were several repeated songs that have showed up on their earlier albums. In this album, I don't know why they did that, but in throughout their discography here in these early years, they re-released songs a lot, and I guess that was a popular thing to do back in the day. If you had a song that was really popular, like a single or whatever, you re-released it a bunch of times to get people to buy your record, I guess. I don't really know how record sales worked back in the day, but yeah, I said rehash, repeated songs, car themes, generally boring. Yeah, I really was not a fan of this album. There are 2 songs that I liked. Ballad of Betsy, sort of a cute song. And then Young Man's Gone, which I believe is a ballad, but I could be wrong about that. I think it was a sadder song. It was more reflective, which I did enjoy, as I've said before. Moving on. We've got Shut Down, Volume 2. What happened to Volume 1? 1964. 3 out of 10. Boring. Balladry continues to be the highlight, though there was a funny, playful skit in the middle. Generally, the songs were samey sounding. We have Fun, Fun, Fun. Again, that's a very iconic song. We all know Fun, Fun, Fun. Great summer song. Don't Worry Baby, which is one of my favorite Beach Boys songs, actually. That's a really, really good song. I love that song. It's very sweet, about a great romance. We got Warmth of the Sun, another one of Brian's ballads, and Keep an Eye on Summer, which is another one of Brian's ballads. As you can tell, I very, very much, as I've said, enjoy Brian's balladry. And again, they continue to highlight his balladry in these early albums. Moving on, and again, like I said, I'm sorry if I'm going way too fast on these. I don't really have much to say about the early ones. I'll have more to say when I get towards the latter half of these earlier albums, because the quality is night and day. But I don't want to spoil that, so we'll keep watching, and we'll get there eventually. Okay. We've got All Summer Long, 1964, another 1964 release. 3 out of 10. Summer songs, again, boring, I wrote. Repetitive. Some good ballads, though, of course. We've got I Get Around. Everyone knows it. Round, round, get around. I get around. Great song. We'll Run Away, which is a song about, like, kids, I guess, wanting, like, teenagers, not kids, not literal kids. Teenagers wanting to get married. That's sort of thematically relevant. You'll see later on. Girls on the Beach, which I can't recall the tune of in my head right now. And then we have Carl's Big Chance, which is like not a drumming. I think it's a drum song, actually. I could be wrong. It's an instrumental track from what I remember. And I added that after I went back and listened to it again, because I listened to these albums one time all the way through, and God help me, it was a journey. Like, I've just been listening to the Beach Boys nonstop for these past weeks now while I'm working on these videos. So I don't want to listen to them in passing. So when I'm driving, usually I'm listening to the albums that I've already heard before, just so I can, like, refresh my mind on them. But when I sit down very intentionally and listen to the tracks, so to make sure that I can have something to say about them. But yeah, it's just like I've just been listening to nothing but Beach Boys, and I'll go back before recording. I'll go back and listen to some of I just like skim through the albums again just to highlight my memory and see if I missed any songs that I may like on second listen. Carl's Big Chance is one of those songs that I ended up liking more on a second listen. All right, I don't know. Did I say what that was? It was a 3 out of 10. Yeah, I think I said what it was. Okay. We've got the Beach Boys today, 1965. 5 out of 10 for me. We've got no car songs. This, yeah, okay. I know a little bit of the history about this one, I think, because I did look it up. I've been on the Beach Boys Wikipedia page pretty much the whole time while doing these videos. This sort of marked a deviation for the Beach Boys, as far as I know, in their early discography, because it showed them getting away a little bit from the summer cars, girls themes a little bit. Really lean into the balladry. Sort of repetitive, but there was definitely maturity in lyrics, at least in the composition in these songs. So we have When I Grow Up to Be a Man, great song. We've got Help Me Rhonda, of course, the iconic song. And Please Let Me Wonder, great song as well. And also, when I went back and listened to this again this morning, She Knows Me Too Well, which is a great song by Brian, I believe, who sings that. You'll know it if you listen to it. It's a good song. It's sort of slow. It's sort of, I feel like I've said the word reflective too much, but I don't really know what else to say about it. It's sort of about a woman who knows a man really well, and he's talking about being a flawed man in their relationship and such. And I think the lyrics are poignant, and I think the song is good. The composition is good. The harmonies are great. All right, moving on to the next album here. We've got Summer Days and Summer Nights, 1965. Originally, I said this was a 5 out of 10, but upon second listen, I lowered it down to 4 out of 10 because I didn't really like this one that much. It sort of regresses thematically because it's going back, as the name implies, to being about summer and shit. So I wrote thematic regression, but catchy songs, great harmonies. As you can tell, they're really honing their harmonies and their sound on this one. So Then I Kissed Her, good song. California Girls, of course, iconic. We all know California Girls. Wish they all could be. You're So Good to Me, fantastic song. Really, really love that song. Actually, once again, I heard the Lemon Twigs cover that song. And I was like, I'd never heard this song before them covering it. And I was like, let me look this up. And I was like, okay, this is really good. Okay, yeah. And then I added, when I listened to this again this morning, I added Summer Means New Love, which is it's an instrumental track. Slow, but it's beautiful. It's a very beautiful song, and I enjoyed it. Yeah, I would say this is a 4 out of 10 for me, this album. Nothing crazy about it. All right, moving on to the next one. We've got Beach Boys Party, 1965. Another 4 out of 10, although I said high 4 out of 10. We've got... I'm sorry. I'm reading my notes, and my handwriting is quite bad, as I said in the next one, so I'm trying to, decipher it. All right, this album is a covers album. And it's also, I think... according to the Wikipedia page, is the first live album, because each song sort of flows into the next one, and they're not really edited in any way. So it's like you hear voices on the back in the background. It seems like they're in a room full of people because there's a lot of different people, like a lot of different voices, not necessarily just all the band's voices on the tracks, on each one of the tracks. But it is a covers album, so they just covered a lot of like folksy songs from the time. So we've got I Should Have Known Better, we've got Hide Your Love Away, and of course we've got Times They Are Changing, which I feel like I'm going to get called on if I don't get this right, but isn't that a Bob Dylan song? I could be wrong. But yeah, I did enjoy their cover of that song. Nothing, like I said, nothing too crazy about this album. It is a covers album, so I'm like, the songs, they're already pre-existing, and they're decent for the most part, but I more so care. I was debating, honestly, whether to include this album or not, because it's just a covers album, and I was like, should I include this or not, because it's not original stuff, but it counts. I did not include the Beach Boys Christmas album because that's an entirely, obviously every Christmas song has been covered 1,000 times before, and I was not listening. I'm not about to listen to a Christmas album in June, so I did not add that one. Because why not? Because why? Why would I? It's Christmas. Everyone knows Christmas songs. It's like whatever. Okay. Beach Boys Parties 4 out of 10. Whatever. High 4 out of 10. All right. Now we're on to the good shit. Okay. Now we're into the good shit. 1966 was when they released my favorite Beach Boys album, and possibly my favorite album of all time, or one of my favorite albums of all time, Pet Sounds. Now, I mentioned this in the first video, the first episode of this series, of the ranking series, that Pet Sounds is an iconic album. It's revolutionary, because up until that point, music, as far as I am aware, and I'm not very aware about music, of course, as I've said multiple times now, did not sound like this. Like, artists did not make music like this. I'm pretty it's not a concept album, but it sort of is, in the way that it's just so cohesive. Like, every song just blends into one another thematically. It's all very poignant. Pet Sounds it's a very sad record, but it's somber in a beautiful way. It just shows an evolution in their sound and a writing at a level of maturity in Brian's writing that we had not seen up until this point. And I don't think that he ever topped what he did, the work that he did in Pet Sounds. And I think that has partially to do with the band. It's like famously known that, though Mike Love disputes this, that he really hated what they were doing. He hated getting away from the beach sound and Brian's diversion into sort of more introspective, deep and abstract sounding music. Although Pet Sounds is far from their most abstract work. And we'll talk about that in the next album. But yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous. The arrangements are so fantastic. The wall of sound, fucking famous. Like, revolutionized music. And albums, I don't think albums have ever been as good as Pet Sounds. Like, I can't think of a song, I can't think of an album that's better than Pet Sounds. I didn't write down any highlight songs because the whole album is a highlight. This is the one and only, up until this point, 10 out of 10 album for me, for the Beach Boys, and may honestly be my only 10 out of 10 album that I've ever listened to. I listened to it again fully through and through yesterday, and it's just like, I know the words. I'm blown away every time I listen to it, and it's fantastic. And I recommend that everyone go and listen to this album. Put on your best pair of headphones. That's how I say recommend it. Put on your best pair of headphones. Just sit down. Dedicate 40 minutes of your time to listening to this masterpiece. Because everyone deserves to listen to music. Everyone deserves to listen to music that is this good. And it's absolutely fantastic. I would not trade it for the world. 10 out of 10. Perfect album in my opinion. Okay. As I'm editing this video, I realize I completely forgot to mention the most beautiful song ever written, which is God Only Knows, and that exists on this wonderful album. And I just wanted to sort of talk about it for a minute here. It's essentially a love song, but it's also so somber and so forlorn and beautiful. It's haunting. Essentially, it's about a person who is so in love with another person that they can't picture their life without them. They can't imagine life continuing without this person. But at the same time, if this person were to leave, inevitably life would go on. So it's so beautiful, and it's also somewhat melodramatic, but the music, the orchestration, the piano interlaced with Brian's almost crooning vocals make for such a beautiful and such a gorgeous track, and I cannot overstate it enough that this is the most beautiful song ever written, and I just had to mention that in this video. Moving on to the next one. Smiley Smile, 1967. We got a 3 out of 10 on this one, buddy. Yeah, it's... Okay, so this is basically the chopped up and consumer-friendly version of the Smile Sessions album, which is just going to be called Smile, which was Brian Wilson's, brainchild. It was his creative masterpiece, his magnum opus. And personally, and I mentioned this in the first one, I did mention this in the first episode, I love the Smile Sessions album. It's absolutely fantastic. It's super weird, super psychedelic in terms of just the lyrics and the themes. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but the songwriting and the orchestration and the composition is all there. It's all fantastic, and it sort of expands on the sounds that he developed in Pet Sounds and takes it like a step further. Like crazy work. It's insane. Like one man could come up with this and just could give birth to such beautiful music that was a failure at the time that he conceived it, and then became massively successful as the years went on, because people realized that this shit is incredible, and no one was doing this in music until Brian Wilson did it. Anyway, for Smiley Smile, it's basically a neutered version of the Smile Sessions. It's just barren instrumentation compared to what he envisioned for it, and I'm very sad that they neutered his project like this. But we got Heroes and Villains, great song. Although the one on Smile Sessions, on the Smile Sessions album, I think I like better. The arrangement on that one better. And then we got Good Vibrations. So only 2 tracks that I really enjoyed on this. The rest of them are just really chopped up, really bland. The vocals don't sound as good as they do on the Smile Sessions album. You can tell that the soul was sucked out of this album, and I was really disappointed, especially coming off of Pet Sounds, which is phenomenal. And yeah, I'm pretty sure fans received this one really weird as well. They were like, what the fuck is this? Not good. Should have gone with his gut, should have released Smile, but the band was pushing back management. The record label, as I'm sure, was pushing back against it, so he caved in and didn't do it. But okay, moving on to the next one. And this is another huge highlight for me. One of my favorite Beach Boys albums. We got Wild Honey, 1967. And this is a solid 8 out of 10 for me. This is an absolutely wild album, as the name suggests. Every song is catchy on this album. Absolutely fantastic. All the songs are great. Sonically, it's a very cohesive sound palette. Like, it doesn't have any of those weird songs I mentioned in the first video where you're listening to, like, there's like 3 good songs in a row and then there's one whack song and you're like, what is this? All the songs are great. This is on par with Sunflower for me, to be honest. Like I said, it's an 8 out of 10, but I would caution to say that it's a high 8 out of 10, which might put it a little bit above Sunflower. I might go back and compare. I think after I'm finished with the series of reviewing all 3 of the sections of the albums, that I might make like a bonus little video that's ranking my top 10 Beach Boys albums, or maybe my top 5, because I don't know that there's 10 that I would rank that high, but we'll see. For highlighted songs, we got Wild Honey, opener, fantastic opener. It's great, it's groovy, it's funky. Aren't You Glad, which is, I think it's the second song, fantastic. It's like we got 3 songs back to back, and then we got I Was Made to Love Her, which is a Stevie Wonder song, I believe, originally. Fucking fantastic. They just did a great job with it. We got Country Air, which it opens in a sort of haunting way, but it's a beautiful sort of country, folksy song. Great song. I love that song. A Thing or Two, minus the chorus. The chorus it's not bad by any means, but it's like it switches the tempo a little bit, and the vocals are a little bit strained, it works for the song. It's a quirky song, but I like what it's doing without the chorus. But it's still a great song either way. And then, of course, we got Darling, which is such a good song. That was a fan favorite of mine when I was younger, when I was like a teenager. I imagine falling in love to that song and dedicating it to a woman or whatever. But yeah, beautiful song, beautiful album. Highly, highly recommend. It's one of their best, most cohesive works that they've released. All right, moving on to the next one. We've got Friends, 1968. This is another fantastic album. And like I said, they really get good at this part. It's like the latter half of the late 60s. They were just so good at writing songs and arranging. The instrumentation was all so beautiful. Friends it's very lush. The arrangements are very lush and beautiful, keeping in theme with the last 2 albums. It's very pastoral. The cover art is green and lush. It's catchy and it's very chill. It's laid back, but it's not as boring as, what album was it? I think, I can't remember. From the middle ones, there was one that I said was very boring. LA Light Album was boring to me. The songs were very slow. It's slow, but it's not boring in the way that I found the songs on Light Album to be. For highlighted tracks, we got "Meant for You," which is the opening track. I think it's like 50 seconds or something. It's very short, very mellow, very slow, but it's beautiful. We got "Friends," second track, fantastic song. We love it. Who doesn't love a good song about being friends? We got "Wake the World." We got "Be Here in the Morning." We got "Passing By." We got "Little Bird," which has been a favorite of mine since I was a teenager. And we got "Busy Doing Nothing," which is a sort of a vibey song about just relaxing, bro. Just having a great ass time doing nothing. All right. Now we've got the final album from the early Beach Boys discography years. We got 2020. 1969. This is a solid 6 out of 10 record for me. It's catchy. It's cohesive in its sound generally. And I'd say it's sonically diverse, according to my notes. But yeah, I do. Most of the songs on this... I should also give a warning. Most of the songs on these latter albums, I am familiar with at least some of them. Much more familiar with these than their early songs. Just because I never listened to their early albums besides the singles, like I said. But these albums, I did hear many of these songs multiple times growing up, and they really stuck in my brain, and for a reason, because they're good. We got "Do It Again," fantastic song, very, very groovy. "I Can Hear Music," fantastic. "Bluebirds Over the Mountain," that's always been a favorite of mine. Very, very funky and groovy. I love that song. "Cotton Fields," another folksy song, it's pretty good. And then we got, at the end of the album, we've got "Our Prayer" and "Cabin Essence," which are both from the Smile Sessions album. And "Our Prayer" I don't think has changed. It's the same in the Smile Sessions. "Cabin Essence," I feel like maybe for this album they changed it a little bit. But I'm surprised neither one of these was on Smiley Smile, if I'm not mistaken. They were not on that one, which was directly based on the Smile Sessions. But yeah, it's interesting that they tacked those two onto the end of 2020. I feel like a lot of the time back in the day with albums and such, I guess that, like I said, they sort of tacked on singles and other songs that were popular so they could get more people to buy their album. But it's interesting that they tacked that on to the end of 2020, because otherwise 2020 is... They almost feel like they could be out of place on 2020, honestly. But it works. I liked it. I thought it was a good album still. Not quite on par with Wild Honey, of course. Not quite on par with Friends. Obviously, nothing will be on par with Pet Sounds. But that's besides the point. Generally, would I say that I enjoyed the early tracks, these 14 albums? I would say you got a solid 1, 2, 3, 4... a solid 4 albums that I thoroughly enjoyed and thought they were worth, that I will definitely be revisiting just like in general. I apologize for the bass thumping outside. As I said, I live on a busy street. Anyway, yeah, I would say there's probably only 4 albums that I'll be revisiting in their totality in this early section of 14 albums. I would say that's a failing grade. But yeah, it's just like most of their early stuff is just, it's doo-woppy, it's summery, and it's sort of bland. It's just like, it's not my style of music. I understand why people who grew up in this time and who possibly live in California and surf would like it, but it's just, it doesn't really do anything. I like to listen to music that makes me feel things. I like to listen to sonically diverse music that has lush orchestration, lush arrangements. And their early stuff just really is very basic. It's very surface level. It's not my cup of tea. I understand why it's iconic, but personally, I prefer their sound in those last 4 albums more than their other early stuff. And I would say overall, possibly I enjoy this more than the middle section of albums. Possibly. Like I said, I'll have to go back and thoroughly evaluate it if I like make that top 10 or top 5 list, whatever, to really get a feel for it and like gather my thoughts and make it more cohesive for you guys, more palatable, I guess, because my brain is just a scattered mess 24/7. But yeah, I'd say generally that I enjoy listening to the early stuff, kind of. I knew that I wouldn't like their early stuff. I just knew that I wouldn't because it's about surfing and stuff. Like I said, I don't want to rehash it all again, but I knew that I wouldn't, so I was like, okay, let me just suffer through this and get to Pet Sounds, because that's what I knew. That was my anchor point. I knew that when I got there, I would love it, and I would restore my faith. And I was like, okay, it definitely did. Great album. I was hesitant to give it a 10 out of 10 until I listened to it in its entirety again. And then I was like, okay, this is a 10 out of 10. Because when people ask me like, "Oh, what's your favorite album?" I'm like, I don't know. I usually flip between like Panic at the Disco, Pretty Odd, Elliott Smith, Figure Eight, or maybe Spilt Milk, possibly by Jellyfish, which is another fucking fantastic record. But I'm like, I don't know that Pet Sounds is my favorite album, but it's just such a good album. I can't say that it's not in my list somewhere, towards the very top of my like favorite albums of all time, because it's just so fucking good. Like I said, highly recommended. If you listen to anything I say in this video, listen to Pet Sounds. Please, please listen to Pet Sounds. Do yourself a favor. If you want to listen to something more beat that's almost just as good, listen to Wild Honey, because it's more upbeat than Pet Sounds is. Not quite the same level of cohesion and writing, but it's very good. The songs are very catchy. Highly recommend it. Okay, I've done enough. Fucking hell, dude. I cannot speak. I've done enough yapping for today. Leave a comment letting me know what you think of this ranking. How do you rank these albums? Any old timers watching this may be like, what the fuck is this kid talking about? We grew up on this music. This is all good. All the early stuff is good, but I disagree. I have to heavily disagree. Okay. Thank you so much for watching the Cat Golf Show. Please leave a like. Like I said, leave me a comment telling me what you think about this ranking and how would you rank them. And I will see you in the next one, which hopefully won't take me as long to make because there's only 5 albums. But as far as I know, it's some of their roughest writing. But we'll get there. We'll talk about that when we're there, okay? Thank you so much for watching. Ta-ta.